Welcome back to Catholic Plus, where we are finding faith in fun. Join me as we mine entertainment for the treasures of our faith to serve you and the new evangelization. Today, we are returning back to our exploration of Captain America, the First Avenger, and we're looking at the second video of our 7-video series for that movie. If you like Catholicism and Marvel, click that like button. And if you'd like to see more from Catholic Plus about Marvel, Star Wars, and more, click the subscribe button and tap that bell icon. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at, is Steve Rogers like Jesus Christ? In what ways are these guys correlated, as well as some extra stuff? So, in this first scene, we have Steve Rogers trying to enlist in the army, and this is strongly indicative of his character. When we look at Steve, he is physically weak, but there is a heart beneath him much more profound than what his physical stature would belie. Steve has plenty of physical impediments that would prevent him from serving as a foot soldier in the army. But he has this burning desire to serve his country and to make a positive difference. While being beaten up in an alley, Steve won't stay down. The bully says, "You just don't know when to give up, do you?" Steve replies, "I could do this all day." A line he says in every movie, twice in this one. This is the way of virtues. The more we practice them, the better we get at doing them, and they become second nature to us, so we can do them all day. Now, Bucky, Steve's friend, then shows up. He punches the bully and gives him a swift kick in the rear end to shoo him away, and Bucky helps his friend Steve back to his feet. Seeing that Steve has been turned down from the army again for the 4th time, Bucky tries to encourage his friend on this, the last night before he leaves for war. What I really appreciate about this scene is Steve gets up no matter what. He has perseverance, even being willing to stick up for everyone in the theater when this bully was being rude and loud, which is what led to this fight in the alleyway in the first place. Now, later in the evening, Steve attempts to enlist for the 5th time, and Bucky tries to talk him out of it. They are overheard by Dr. Erskine, and Steve says a powerful line here as he's arguing with Bucky when he says, "That's what you don't understand. This isn't about me." Now that really gets to the heart of Steve Rogers in that he has a deep selflessness and a willingness to serve despite his apparent inability to do so, at least physically. That said, Bucky calls him out on it as a good friend should, and he says, "Oh right, because you've got nothing to prove." Which also gets at the fact that rarely do we do anything completely altruistically without at least some semi-selfish motive. Steve mostly wants to serve for good reason, but Bucky is right. As a good friend should be, there is this underlying desire for Steve to prove himself. And Dr. Erskine overhears this entire conversation as Bucky and Steve say goodbye. We move on to the following scene of Steve Rogers falsifying information about himself to apply to the military again. At this point, the doctor tests Steve's resolve and his reasons for wanting to fight. Dr. Erskine calls him out on why he has had 5 exams, and the doctor says, "It's not the exams I'm interested in, it's the 5 tries." The doctor returns to his previous question when he first met Steve, "Do you want to kill Nazis?" This is a character question. Steve replies by asking, "Is this a test?" And the doctor says, "Yes." Steve responded, "I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from." And the doctor responds, "Well, there are already so many big men fighting this war. Maybe what we need now is a little guy, huh?" This reminds me of Saint Therese's little way, Saint Therese of Lisieux, how even the little person's spiritual love for God can make profoundly great saints. And Saint Therese is a doctor of the church because of this contribution. The doctor says, "I can offer you a chance, only a chance." And Steve quickly says, "I'll take it." When Steve joins the boys at boot camp, they are under the instruction of Colonel Phillips, played by Tommy Lee Jones. Quoting General Patton, the colonel says, "We're going to win this war because we have the best men and because they are going to get better." And then looking at Steve, he says, "Much better." The reality is, no matter what condition we are in this battle on earth for our souls, we can always improve by the grace of God. In fact, we rely heavily on the grace of God to help us grow in virtue and holiness. God is the first one to reach out to us, and we respond in generosity back to God and His grace. In Steve's case, he also has the help of Dr. Erskine and Dr. Erskine's Super Soldier Serum, which also has connections to God's grace with us that helps us on our way. The Colonel continues by saying, "Our goal is to create the best army in history, but every army starts with one man." The question we need to ask ourselves, in which army do we want to be part of? Because the army of the Lord has already been founded as the Lord Himself. He is that one man. He is the God-man on which our army was started, and our enemies are everywhere. The Colonel talks about breeding a new super soldier, which is like the saints who are selfless and have a deep love, even a masculine love. Steve, even in his littleness, like Saint Therese of Lisieux, demonstrates a selflessness, a virtue, a masculine kind of love, even in his physical littleness. Seeing only Steve's physical weakness, the Colonel questions Dr. Erskine about whether he really wants to have Steve Rogers for his experiment, and the doctor's answer is telling. Dr. Erskine responds that he is looking for qualities beyond the physical. This is something we really need to pause and consider, because the same is true in the spiritual life. When Jesus picked the 12 apostles, He did not pick the brightest or the most qualified, like the Pharisees, who Jesus called whitewashed tombs. They looked great on the outside, but they were dead on the inside. Instead, the Lord looks at the hearts of these men and the qualities that He truly wanted, like the doctor and the qualities He sees in Steve Rogers. Let's ask ourselves whether we only look qualified on the outside, or if we're truly growing in holiness and virtue on the inside as well. If we don't have something more, what we need, by God's grace, He can give it to us. So let's pray for what we need from God at all times. The Colonel decides to do a test, and he pulls the pin out of a false grenade and throws it in front of all the men. And all the men flee, save for Rogers, who jumps on top of it. And we can also see in the background, the experienced soldier, Agent Carter, is also prepared to do likewise. As Steve lays on the grenade, he screams to everyone else, "Get back!" And even the most physically fit look on in wonder. They finally realize it's not a real grenade, and Steve has proven his value beyond measure. Here he is willing to offer himself out of self-sacrifice, even for absolute strangers that he neither knows well nor loves affectionately, but he loves just as fellow human beings. That is the hero we are looking for in superhero films. Someone whose example is worthy of imitation and who has selfless love imitating Jesus Christ. That is what resonates deeply within our souls and tells us this is a true hero. That is what wins Dr. Erskine's absolute approval. That's what finally convinces the Colonel, and that's what wins us over as an audience. Not only that, it impresses Peggy, because every woman deserves the heart of a man who is willing to sacrifice as he should. Steve repeats his question, is this a test? Similarly, in the spiritual life, we must realize that so much of what we do and who we become in this life is, in a way, a test as well. But what do you think? And did I miss anything? Comment below so that we can share more spiritual insights together. If you're proud to be Catholic and a fan of Marvel, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the share button below to help us evangelize and share this video with more people. Special thanks to all the Catholic Plus patrons who make Catholic Plus possible. To see the thank you gifts you can receive by supporting Catholic Plus too, be sure to check out our Patreon page in the description below. And may God bless you always.